Today I'm going to be sharing with you new middle grade book recommendations. I don't mean new in that they were released like in 2021 or 2022, but I mean new as in they are new to this channel. If you're new to my channel, I'm a Christian homeschool mom and I love books and reading out loud. I want to give you guys book recommendations that are safe for your kids, that I have read and approve of, and I'm excited to share with you guys. I just want this to be a resource for you so you can find books that your kids can read and love, and you don't have to be worried about what's being said or taught in those books. First one up is called Long May She Reign. I actually listened to this on Scribd. I love Scribd. If you don't know what that is, I'll tell you about it in the description because I'm not going to go into it again. Long May She Reign is more of a YA type of book. It's like a little bit like the characters are a little bit older. I think she's like 16, 17, and basically she falls into becoming the leader of this kingdom out of the blue, right? Like just not what you expect. And she kind of falls into this leadership role, and it's not what she wanted, it's not what she ever dreamed of, but here she is, and she really steps up, and you follow the character as she develops this new role of somebody who kind of was like maybe a wallflower, kind of hiding in the corner, no one really knew her, to like really stepping out and ruling the kingdom and ruling it well and bringing her skills and what she has learned in her life and brings it into this role as the queen of this country. So I really enjoyed it. It was a recommendation from my niece, and it turned out to be a great read. Highly recommend. The next one is A Place to Hang the Moon. If you're looking for a historical fiction for your children, this is set during World War II. It's amazing, a great read. The characters are so well developed. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I did a whole video review of this book, so if you want to watch like all the things about this book, there's so much about World War II, like the history, and I felt like this book talked about some of those big issues and really brought it down to a kid's level, and just I feel like it could help my children live another life, because that's what books do, they let you live another life, and I felt like this was just such a good book for my kids to read, and also I loved it. So this is number 2, A Place to Hang the Moon by Kate Albus. So The Lighthouse Between the Worlds, I discovered at the beginning of this year through my book club. It was one of my kids' book recommendations. It ended up being kind of like a sci-fi. There is a secret portal that takes you to another world. And I'm not normally a secret portal sort of person, only that like I don't love science fiction books. That's just not my thing. However, I love fantasy. So, you know, sometimes those kind of like, they mesh well together sometimes, but not always. Anyway, this one, it's set on the coast of Oregon, which is where I grew up, so I kind of have like, ooh, it's on the coast of Oregon, like I want to read it because of that. But the story itself was actually really well done. It's about a boy whose father, like, they're lighthouse keepers, right? His father goes missing, he gets sucked into the portal, and of course, as in all like stories, and especially middle grade, like the boy wants to help, right? He's not going to just sit in the world side of things in the United States and wait for his dad to return. Like, of course not. He's going to follow him through the portal and find out, you know, what happened and if he can save him. And that is the journey that you go on in this book. It's a portal through the world. What's his name? Griffin. Yeah, he's kind of a fun name. So Griffin travels through the portals and goes to rescue his father. And then this is the sequel, because it doesn't end, this book does not end in a resolute area where you're like, oh, everyone's fine and everyone's back here and we're all good. No, it definitely ends on a cliffhanger. So then you have to find out, like, what happens. Next up, we have Jane Eyre, Retold, an Usborne Retold. So, first of all, if you want to like introduce your kids into classics at a young age, this is a great option. I will say I'm not a huge like Jane Eyre person. I like happy endings. I like a little bit more fluffy stories, sweet stories, but I did think this was really good for like just the literary benefit of it. Like this book was good because it did give you the whole story. It's just retold and made a little bit easier to follow, and so this is a great option if you want to give your kids that literary knowledge, but don't necessarily want to make them read the entire Jane Eyre, which can be a little dry. Don't hate me, guys. Don't hate me that I don't love Charlotte Bronte. I love Jane Austen. I love Agatha Christie. I love a lot of older authors, but Charlotte Bronte, not my cup of tea. The next one is another historical fiction. It's called A Thunder from the Sea. So this was a really fun book, and it's so fast-paced. If you have a reluctant reader, somebody who doesn't like get pulled into the story very well or very fast, like this book, like bam, you're in the action, it's happening. And it was set on the coast of Canada. It starts out with a little boy finding a dog in the ocean, and he gets to keep the dog. Thunder from the Sea by Joanne Hyatt Harlow. Sorry, her name's kind of long. Anyway, she wrote several historical fictions, and I read 3 of them, and another one was called Midnight Rider. That one's set during the Revolutionary War. Again, very fast-paced. As an adult, I found it a little bit predictable, but that's okay because I'm an adult, and I don't think it was necessarily predictable for the kids. So it was fun. It was about a girl. Her parents died in like the flu epidemic, I think it was, and then she has to go and live with an officer in the King's Army during the Revolutionary War. So then she's acting as a spy for the American side, and it was just a good story. Also, if you're doing history for your kids around that time frame, that would be a good read for them to just see a little, like, zoom in onto that one aspect and what it would be like to be a servant during that time, which was a perspective I'd never really thought about, like being a servant during the Revolutionary War, where you're maybe working for the king's side and really on the American side. The next one is called Samantha Spinner. Samantha Spinner is a total fiction. It's not historical fiction. It's just a novel, and it's by Russell Gins. It was a really, really fun book. It's about a little girl whose uncle is kind of mysterious, and he dies or goes missing. I'm not really sure. They don't have a body, right? And Samantha and her brother and her sister, he turns out to be a millionaire, actually like a billionaire, and he leaves them all these things, but all he left for Samantha, which was his favorite niece, she thought, was an umbrella. And she was like, man, that doesn't make any sense. Well, so she goes on this journey, and the thing that I love most about this book is actually the geography, because I love geography. They get to travel. So in this book, there are secret tunnels leading around the world. So she and her little brother, who is just like hilarious, they will get in these secret tunnels through secret entryways around the US, and they'll zoom from like Seattle to Paris to Egypt. And I love it because I'm kind of geeking out about like just where they're traveling to and the different things they're seeing, like the Eiffel Tower, and my daughter's just enjoying the story and laughing, and just she loved this story. I read it out loud to her, and she has just thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's actually a series, which I didn't know, but there's like 4 of them. This one came in her book box, so I was like, ooh, okay, I'm gonna get the other ones because we've really enjoyed this. So if you're looking for just like a fun, lighthearted, make you laugh out loud book that's got some really cool places in it, this is a good option. The next one is a fantasy book, but it's a retelling of Robin Hood. So I like this because A, it's written for middle grade, which, you know, just instead of like being written for adults, it's got like middle grade feel. And Robin in this story is young. He's like 13 or 14, maybe 15, whatever. Okay, he's a teenager. And it's still him and little John and Marian in the woods, and it's just like a completely different view of it. So again, it's just a retelling of Robin Hood, but for kids, and it's very well written and very interesting, and just a whole new, outlook on it. And I don't need to tell you guys the Robin Hood story because I'm sure you already know. But this Outlaws of Sherwood, highly recommend. Okay. My kids got introduced to Keeper of the Lost Cities this last year, and let me tell you, it was like, I don't want to say the word epidemic, but it was like, it was obsession from the start. And when I say my kids, I mean my book club kids. We read book 1. My son was like, yeah, I want to read this one. I want to read it. So we read book 1. He read it. And then we did it as a book club book. And all the children are now thoroughly obsessed. And some of the parents. Yes, my sister is on book like 6 of this 8.5 book series. Book 9 comes out at the end of this year, and some of my book club kids are counting down the days, literally counting down the days to its release. So this is a fantasy through and through. There are elves, there's another world. It's very pretty. Like it's set, like I can't quite explain it, but like the characters, you know how in Twilight they're super beautiful? Well, in Keeper of the Lost Cities, they're also beautiful and like ageless, and there's this whole mystery around this 12-year-old girl named Sophie Foster. She was born in the US, I think California. California, I think. And she ends up getting like, basically she finds out that she is not a normal human. She's actually an elf. So Sophie Foster, she is in the US and she gets taken into the world of the elves, and she has to leave behind her, like, you know, English human family and go and experience this whole new thing. So this book is just, it is probably, actually it is my son's favorite book from this year. Okay, the next one is Tuesdays at the Castle by Jessica Day George. This book is really fun. It's definitely got like a little bit of a magical, you know, atmosphere to the book. The castle is alive, the castle is magical, and it can move walls and stuff like that. This book still had like magic in it, but it feels like a very like sweet fantasy mystical type magic, like almost like you'd read in like Cinderella or something like that. And so it didn't give me like any creepy vibes, so I would still recommend it because I enjoyed it for that reason. Well, the story is around this little girl whose family, her mom and dad, she's obviously the princess, right? Her parents are the king and queen. They travel out of town to go somewhere, and while they're gone, their carriage gets ambushed and they're kidnapped or murdered, and nobody knows what. And so then the surrounding kingdoms are trying to take the castle and the kingdom from the family, and the ones that are left are just the three youngest siblings, and the castle is helping them to keep hold of their kingdom. It's a really fun story, very sweet, and I would recommend it even for ages like down to 8. If they're good readers, this book would be fast-paced, fun, and just kind of magical. The next one is called Secret of the Sirens. I don't have the book in my hands, but The Secret of the Sirens was really good. I think one of the things I thought was interesting was that Secret of the Sirens makes it sound like it's going to be about sirens, and it really wasn't about sirens. It was about a girl who has the ability, the magical ability, to talk to all the creatures. And this book was so interesting because the premise is that there is this whole society that's protecting mythical creatures, and mythical creatures are all around us. So minotaurs are real, sirens are real, I'm trying to remember all the mythical creatures, unicorns are real, Pegasus are real, and I really thought that was fun. It was very interesting. And then in the story, these characters, these other kids her age and adults too, but they all had the ability to talk to a certain type of animal or a certain type of mythical creature, and her ability was to talk to them all. And so she was the only one that could talk to the sirens, I guess. But anyway, the word siren, I think, was a deterrent for some people, but it actually wasn't really about that. It was very interesting. If you like mythology, if you like, you know, fantasy, and you like mythical creatures, you would love this book. You should definitely recommend this Secret of the Sirens. The next one was Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians by Brandon Sanderson. This probably is my favorite book of this year for middle grade. It was hilarious. Every child in my book club just thought it was so funny. So Alcatraz is a foster child, and on his 13th birthday, he gets a box of sand from his parents, and they pretend like it was sent a long time ago, but he could tell by like certain things just that it was actually recent. So then he kind of was like, okay, there's more to this than just meets the eye. And then his grandpa comes and picks him up and is like, okay, like, you're coming with me, we've got a mission, and there goes the adventure. Oh gosh, there's just so many good things in Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarian. All of these will be linked below so you can find them. I would definitely reread this book 10 times over. It's a great book. You should read it. The next one would be The Wingfeather Saga. I talked about this more in another video, and I'll just link that up here so I don't go into it too long. But this book, this series, is fascinating, fabulous. I have read all of the first one out loud to my kids, and I'm on the second book with my kids, but my son has read them all. We just love them. The storytelling by Andrew Peterson was fantastic. And again, I'll just link the video up there so you can find it. The next one is Jinxed by Amy McCullough. This book was also very fun. It is kind of like a STEM type book. On the front it says, a little bit Golden Compass and All Adventure. I don't know if I'd say Golden Compass. I don't know if it's in the future, but it kind of feels futuristic. But she can rebuild robots. Anyway, instead of cell phones, they have pets. And that's kind of how it all revolves around that. So she has this pet cat that she has built essentially from scratch. She found it broken, she repaired it, and it is now her Baku. That's what they called. Jinxed is the name of her cat in this book. So this story is about my cat, her meeting her cat. But the next one is going to be just, I think, her journey of helping get the other people out of this bad town, essentially, that they're in, this bad manticore that they're all like working for. It kind of reminds me of the industrial age where entire cities were built around like one plant, one building. It's kind of like that with these baku. Okay, the next one is probably my favorite school book that I have read so far this year. It is called Belle, Prater's Boy. This book is so sweet. It's not historical fiction, it's just a fiction book. Belle, Prater's Boy by Ruth White. This book had me and my son just like from the get-go. From page 2, I think we were both like so drawn in, so engaged, so fun. It's about a little girl and her aunt goes missing, and her cousin, the aunt who's missing son, comes to live next door to her with her grandparents. So they are kind of just, it's a coming of age story. I see that a lot, right? It is in fact a coming of age story, but the aunt has gone missing. Everyone doesn't know what happened to her. She just disappeared one night. It's like, is she dead? Was she kidnapped? Did she run away from her life? Why would she have left her son, who is like the sweetest little guy? I adore Woodrow from this story. He is so sweet. And there's a lot of hard topics that are discussed, which I've mentioned in other videos, but I love it when hard topics are talked about because kids might not always experience that, but it does help them to see it from another perspective, live a different life, walk in someone else's shoes. And this book did that so well. The last but not least is Mr. Max. This book is also from our school curriculum, and I think that it took about, I would say, a third of the way through before my son really got into it, but the story was very fun. It's about a little boy whose parents go missing, and they're actors, and he's not sure if they're like playing a big part. He's not sure if they left him on purpose. Like, he doesn't really know what happened, but it's so intriguing. It's set like the early part of the 1900s, and he is like trying to just be independent. He's 13 years old, and he's like, well, I guess I'll just be independent. I don't want to go to an orphan. Like, I don't want to go to an orphanage. So he starts figuring out what to do to make his own way in the world. And I think it's so fun because a lot of kids wonder that. Like, a lot of kids experience that where they're, not the fact that their parents leave, but they wonder like, oh, what would that be like? And in this book, he gets to experience that a little bit. You get to see what that's like. But he also lives next door to his grandma. So he's not completely alone. And that makes it a little bit more, at least from like my mom heart. Like, he's not completely alone. He's got his grandma right there. So that made it better. But Mr. Max of Lost Things, it got so good at the end. My son and I both were like, yay, at the end. We love the story, but it's also, there is more to the story. It's definitely not over yet. So we will be getting the sequel, even though it's not part of our curriculum for school. Keep an eye out because another video in the very near future is going to be my TBR for middle grade book reads. And I am so excited. I picked out like all the ones I'm so excited to read, you guys. My stack is like 50 books high, but I am committed. I'm reading through these and I can't wait to share them with you guys because there's so many good middle grade book options out there. And I remember for a while I was feeling like, where are all the books? I don't know if I can find books for my kids. This is really stressful. You guys, I have been digging deep so that I can give you guys awesome book recommendations for your kids so you can feel confident in what you get them. And I also recommend looking for these books. Like, make a list, take it to the library, take it to Goodwill, bookshop, like book hunt for things at a bargain price. You do not have to buy most of these new. I bought them used because that's how I can get them so cheap, and then I can just fill our library with books that my kids can read that are safe for them and just build all the things that reading builds for children. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep an eye out for that new video that's going to be my TBR, my middle grade TBR books. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again really soon.